The worst part about being manipulated is that you usually don't realize it's happening. You think you're helping, being understanding, giving someone another chance. Meanwhile, someone else is quietly benefiting from your kindness. And by the time you notice, they've been doing it for months, maybe years. You might recognize this. You constantly give people the benefit of the doubt. You explain away bad behavior. You forgive quickly. You avoid conflict. You tell yourself, they probably didn't mean it. They're having a bad day. They didn't know. And sometimes that's true. But sometimes, it's exactly why people keep taking advantage of you. What nice people miss. Most people think manipulation is obvious. It isn't. The best manipulators don't look dangerous. They look reasonable, friendly, misunderstood, sometimes even vulnerable. And that's why genuinely kind people often miss the signs. Not because they're weak. Because they're looking for the good in everyone. They always need one more chance. Have you noticed that some people are permanently one apology away from accountability? They mess up. They apologize. You forgive. Then they do it again. And again. The story changes. The excuse changes. But the pattern stays the same. Here's the trap. Nice people often focus on intentions. Manipulators focus on outcomes. As long as the apology works, the behavior doesn't need to change. And eventually you find yourself trusting promises instead of patterns. That's usually where the problem starts. You feel responsible for their feelings. This one catches a lot of people. You start feeling responsible for someone else's emotions. Their disappointment. Their frustration. Their anger. Their reactions. You begin changing your behavior to manage their mood. Not because you want to. Because you feel guilty if you don't. That's a powerful form of control. Because once someone controls your guilt, they often control your decisions. And the scary part? It doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like compassion. If you've ever ignored a red flag because you wanted to see the best in someone. Comment, pattern. You keep explaining yourself. This sign is easy to miss. Because it feels normal. You say no. Then explain it. You set a boundary. Then defend it. You make a decision. Then justify it. Again. And again. Healthy people usually accept your answer. Manipulative people keep pushing. Why? Because they're not looking for clarity. They're looking for access. The more you explain, the more material they have to work with. The more opportunities they have to negotiate your boundary. Which raises an uncomfortable question. What if some people aren't confused by your boundary at all? What if they're testing whether you'll keep defending it? They make you question yourself. This is one of the most dangerous signs. Because it doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly. You bring up a concern. They dismiss it. You point out a pattern. They tell you you're overthinking. You remember what happened. They tell you that's not what happened. Over time, you start trusting their version of reality more than your own. And that's where things become dangerous. Because confidence doesn't disappear overnight. It erodes. One small doubt at a time. The goal isn't always to convince you they're right. Sometimes the goal is simply to make you unsure that you're right. And once someone achieves that, your resistance becomes much weaker. The relationship only works one way. Pay attention to this. When they need support, you're there. When they need understanding, you're there. When they need patience, you're there. But when the situation reverses, everything changes. Suddenly they're unavailable, busy, distracted, uninterested. The relationship becomes strangely one-sided. You keep investing. They keep benefiting. And because the imbalance grows gradually, you don't notice it immediately. Until one day you realize something uncomfortable. You've been carrying a relationship that was supposed to carry itself. The problem isn't that you're too nice. Here's the twist. Most people think they're being manipulated because they're too nice. That's not actually the problem. Kindness isn't weakness. Empathy isn't weakness. Patience isn't weakness. The real problem is the absence of boundaries. Because kindness without boundaries becomes access. Unlimited access. And some people will always take as much access as you give them. The issue isn't that you care. The issue is that you keep caring after the pattern becomes obvious. That's a completely different thing. How to protect yourself without becoming cold. Step 1. Stop listening only to words. Watch patterns. Patterns reveal intentions better than promises. Step 2. Pay attention to how people respond to boundaries. Healthy people may not always like your boundaries, but they usually respect them. Manipulative people often treat boundaries like obstacles. Step 3. Separate guilt from responsibility. Feeling guilty doesn't automatically mean you're doing something wrong. Many people confuse those two things. And manipulators often rely on that confusion. Step 4. Ask a simple question. If I met this person today, would I willingly sign up for this relationship? The answer is often revealing. Step 5. Trust repeated behavior more than isolated moments. Anyone can be kind once. Anyone can apologize once. Anyone can make promises once. Consistency is where character becomes visible. The goal isn't to become suspicious of everyone. The goal isn't to stop being kind. The goal isn't to build walls around yourself. The goal is to stop confusing kindness with access. Because those are not the same thing. You can be compassionate and still have standards. You can be understanding and still say no. You can be generous and still walk away. The strongest people aren't the coldest people. They're the people who know exactly where their kindness ends and where their boundaries begin. In the next video, we're going to explore another pattern that traps a lot of good people. Why some people keep attracting the same toxic personalities over and over again. If you've ever ignored a red flag because you wanted to believe the best in someone, comment, pattern. Because the moment you stop focusing on excuses and start focusing on patterns, everything becomes easier to see.